Laura, we're here to talk about Camp Punksylvania and Riot Squad Media and all the other lovely things you have going on. But we need to know first, how did you get into punk rock and why is this so important to you?
Um, oh man, that's a good question. I grew up kind of in the food industry. My dad owned a pizzeria when I was younger, and I obviously, would go in and bother everybody while they were working. I'd fold pizza boxes and like do the dishes and stuff. And there was a stereo back there and a big binder of CDs and some dudes with big orange mohawks. And I thought that that was the coolest shit ever. So I guess that's just really where it started. Like the first stuff that I heard was like Agent Orange and like early NoFX. And I was just instantly hooked. Would bring it home. My dad would come in my room, keep it down. And it was definitely one of those like, it's just a phase thing. It's just a phase thing. But here we are 20 years later,
20 years later, and you are doing Camp Punksylvania, which is a really big summer camp. How did that all get started? I know you've said this probably a million times and you can say it in your sleep, but tell the listeners who might not know.
Camp has a cool story. So a big, huge group of us went to what was Punk and Drublick Camp in, I think 2018 was the first year of that. And then 2019, we all went again. You know how it is. You meet people at a festival and like you're stoked to see them year after year at that fest, Punk rock bowling is another one of those things too that I think of. Like you go there and you know you're going to see certain people every year there. So Camp Anarchy kind of turned into that for us, but it was really short lived. It was only 2 years and they pulled the plug on it. So, you got people from Canada, I'm from New York, Terry's from Canada. We have friends in Pennsylvania, and it was just like, man, we should do something like this low key, And at the time, we had a friend who had like 10 or something acres of land, and we had just really planned on planned on kind of having it low key, just some friends around a campfire, and we were talking about it on social media. Woke up the next day, and there was like 100+ comments of people like, "Can we come? Where do we get tickets? Can my band play?" And it was like, what is going on? So we kind of started turning the wheels on that, and then COVID hit. So we had an extra year to kind of get our shit together, which was, Terry and I say all the time, like the biggest blessing in disguise for us. We lost some people, we gained some people, and we almost pulled the plug on the whole thing a couple of times. But year one happened at an actual cult. Like this place was a real cult in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania. So that's where This Is a Cult comes from, because 308 people walked out of there that weekend and were like, what the fuck did we just experience? And here we are 5 years later now.
Ryan, nice of you to join us. Hi.
Joe.
How's it going?
I have no idea what the hell's going on, but Eric was supposed to be here and he can't get in, and then Ryan shows up. So you're going to be Ryan today, and Eric says, "May the force be with you." I mean, you're Eric today.
I can't join too long. I gotta hit the road where I'm off to Grand Rapids. Boy Detective, Something to Do, Dance Contraption are all playing over at the Pyramid Scheme. So
Well, you drive safely.
yeah,
Um,
there's another storm that just hit Michigan that's probably on your way right now. So
Well, be
awesome.
careful.
something to look forward to.
Yay. Have fun tonight. Um, Tell me what it's been like on the past 5 years. You went from having this thing you wanted to be a friend gathering with live music and just to see each other, and now you're going into your fifth year. You've booked the Vandals and Bridge City Centers as headliners, and still one more to go.
Yeah.
Like, what are some of the challenges you faced over the years in bringing this all together?
Dude, it's been a wild ride. Like I said, today I've been kind of just, there's certain bands and songs that trigger memories and stuff. And one of those bands is Make War. They're playing camp this year, so shout out Make War. But I I don't know, dude. It's been a really wild ride watching it grow. Year one, we had Voodoo Glow Skulls and the Vandals, or I'm sorry, the Queers, not the Vandals. And even then, it was just something like, what is happening? We've got 300 people in the middle of Nowheresville, Pennsylvania, and uh, year after year, it just got even more crazy. Suicide Machines, like that was something that in the early days we were like, Wouldn't it be really cool if Suicide Machines could play Camp Punksylvania, you know? Hi everybody. But yeah, it's been really crazy watching it grow. Again, we've lost some people and gained some people, and I think it's just been a lot of trial and error on our part. Like, we genuinely started this thing not knowing what we were doing. Like, I ran a restaurant. Terry Terry lives in Canada, you guys. Like, this was just
Good
something
Canada.
that was supposed to be like just a little group gathering, and you know, year after year watching it keep doubling in size, because that's, knock on wood, what's been happening. Just having that many more people join our weird little family, it's a very humbling feeling.
The new location is absolutely incredible. Like at an actual fairgrounds, like it's so perfect. Like the distance between the two stages, even like that way, there's not too much interference.
Thank you.
Like I could not be more impressed. Like the layout with all the food in between, so you've got your drinks and your food right there in between the stages, because the way it bounces back and forth, everything works out absolutely perfect. You know, once one band finishes up and the other one is picking up, you know, almost on that next
Well,
note. So
and like that's our whole thing, right? Because our whole lives, like I said, I've been listening to punk music since I was like a little kid. Same thing with Terry and, you know, everybody else in between, right? Our team is huge now, but our whole thing is we've just been going to shows, going to festivals our entire life. So, you know, you look around, what do you like about a show? What do you not like about a show? What makes you want to be there? What do you not touch when you're there? So we try to take all these different aspects of every show and festival that we've been to and pull the best parts of that. And it's changed over the years. Like year 2, we were like, oh, let's host after parties in a fucking basement of a moldy hotel. Whoop, that was a bad idea. That was not a good idea, you know. And here we are. We're not doing that again. We have a whole new separate world for things like that to happen. But yeah, I think this venue, I'll be honest, we were kind of like freaking out a couple months after, you know, Circle Drive-In, and we were just like, all right, we obviously can't go back there. We have to figure something out. And luckily Sherman Theater was like, hey, we think we have a cool spot, you know, and we went and checked it out, and we were just like, this is home. You know, and to watch it come to life last year for the first time was like Camp One all over again. You know, we had no idea what to expect, like how people were going to react to the layout and stuff, but it really felt the most like a summer camp that it's ever felt, I think, in my opinion. So we're excited to like go back and enhance that experience even more this year.
I think last year was Ryan and I's first year. And you've been going on this for 5 years. And yes, I missed the first 10 minutes of this in a panic trying to figure out how to get on here. So if I repeat anything, just pretend like I didn't. Okay?
We were making fun of you the whole
I
time, so
caught
it's okay.
that. I caught that a little bit. I think I heard Boomer a couple times and all that good stuff. But so what are some of the growing pains? You mentioned the moldy basement, but what are some other things from year one to go to this year? What are some of the challenges and growing pains that you were like,
I will definitely say being a female run company is really fucking hard in this industry. Year 1, 90% of the people we reached out to did not even respond to us. And you know, we were small potatoes at the time. We still really are. We're babies in this. But nobody would answer us, and the people that did answer us took a lot of advantage of us. Most of them. You know, there's a lot of good people too that are still by our side. Like, shout out to Dave over at Covert Booking, who, you know, we've had his bands on our bill every single year and then some, just because he's been so good to us. But you know, the venue year 1, we paid way too much money for it, for what we ended up, you know, facing. And yeah, year 1 was hilariously awesome. That's the best way to explain it, is that comment right there. Like, it was just crazy. But I think, you know, venue challenges have been our biggest hurdle. We've had something crazy at each location that we have left. You know, the great flea market fiasco of year 3 was absolutely insane. So I think like definitely our venue troubles have been the worst. So knock on wood that like we are able to put our roots down somewhere like this. But And putting our like foot down and some roots in the ground, I do feel like we're a little bit more respected now. You know, we get answered on our emails. We have people who reach out to us. It's a lot different than it was, you know, 7 years ago when we kind of got the wheels turning on this, 5 years ago when camp really kind of started kicking into gear. But and I think also just making sure you have the right people in the right roles. Like, we're all a big group of friends, and our entire team, right down from me all the way down, is totally volunteer based, you know. And with that comes, you know, making sure that, again, the right skills are in the right places. So it's been 5 years of like the biggest puzzle of my life, you know, just figuring out who fits better where, what, you know, where somebody shines the best, where we could use somebody else. And that's been a very wild ride in itself. But I do think these are all really, really good things. Where's the best place to start a structure fire? Not at Camp Punksylvania.
Good call. Good call.
Yeah.
What are some of the other?
Is choosing the bands one of the harder things to do now?
Yeah. Like I said, it used to be us kind of reaching out and just being like, somebody, please, somebody answer us, please entertain this. And now, you know, it gets pretty crazy. We kind of are able to pick a little bit more and say, hey, we have options now. What can we do, and how can we make this the best experience for people? And for me, that's like one of the most fun parts about pre-camp is building the lineup and being able to showcase all of the bands on there. My favorite thing every year is seeing the comment, I don't know half the bands on this lineup. Good, you shouldn't, but you should when you leave here, you know? And I think, I say it every year too, if we can get you to come out and see those headliners and those bigger support bands, and you end up falling in love with a handful of regional local acts, and you're buying their vinyl and buying their shirts and putting their stickers on your car, like, that's a win for us. That's all we really ever wanted out of this. So to see that happen year after year is, again, it's really all that we ever wanted out of this.
How are you picking those bands? I mean, I've watched Facebook, so I hear all the jokes about people afterwards being like, "Can I still try to apply?" But at this point in time, I can only imagine the amount of bands. I know the amount of bands from Michigan
Dude,
that send out to you. So how do you go about deciding what your lineup is?
We try to keep this as fair as possible, and we have done this every single year from the start, and this will be how we do it every year until the day that we die. We have a submission form, and basically you can subscribe to our mailing list or check out our social media, but we open it up for a certain period of time, and that's it. You submit your band, you send us your shit, and that is it. There is no other way. If you hit me up after, if you hit us up after, that doesn't count. You have to do it within that time slot. And the reason is, when that happens, we have almost 1,000 bands to go through. So it just gets crazy. But we're good on our word, and our entire team listens to every single one. We have a listening committee of an odd number of us, and we just kind of go through and we put our averages together, and it's absolutely one of the craziest processes ever. But again, we all have such different tastes in music, and we want to keep this as punk as possible and not like just to what I like or to what Terry likes. So it's good to have, you know, a bunch of different opinions kind of being heard there. And I hope that it represents it in the lineup this year, you know?
You had mentioned earlier,
vendors out there are absolutely awesome. One of my favorite stickers that I got last year was "I'd rather be executing billionaires," which has aged absolutely wonderfully over the last 9 months or so.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off there, Eric.
No, you're not. That's okay, though. I was following the outline, Ryan. You went off their outline.
I didn't get an outline.
That's fair. That's fair.
You guys got an outline?
We don't share it with you. It's more of a surprise for you.
Oh, yeah.
Surprise.
All right.
And I don't know where we are on the outline anymore. So go ahead, Ryan. Go ahead. You're done, aren't you?
No, I just want to chime in. Some of the vendors out there are absolutely incredible. Kids in the Pit was out there, you know, jumping up on stage during the karaoke, which was
Dude, his band is
so much fun to watch
this year, which is fucking awesome.
That would be absolutely sick.
So I will tell a real story about myself and the vendors. So feel good moment, okay? I actually found my therapist at Camp Punk last year.
That is awesome.
So I connected with one of the therapists that you brought on, and they happen to live in the same state. And I got a business card, and it's an amazing therapist. So hardcore therapist. If anyone's looking for one, I highly suggest her. But that is where I met my therapist.
That's
so
awesome,
on
dude.
top
See,
of
and that too, like those things, you know, our vendors, we're trying to make sure that we're like really picking those the best that we can too, and provide things like that to people. Because it's important, you know, a lot of us don't have access to those resources, and the fact that you got something other than just a good time out of camp means the absolute world to me. That is so cool.
Oh, thank you.
Whoever
So this year,
thought joining a cult would have been good for your mental health?
I mean, typically it starts off good, but you know. So what? Let's talk about some of the bands you have coming on. Obviously, you have some. You have the Vandals. You've announced. You have Bridgestone Sinners, who you've announced. And I'm kind of curious, when you look at the bigger bands, you know, you talk about the thousands of bands. How do you look for your headliners? Like, what are you looking for? How does that process look?
You know what's crazy is most of them submit, well, through their agents too. Is crazy. Like and I say that, we joke around with our team all the time, like it's a wild thing to see like those things coming through in like a spreadsheet, you know? Like who would have thought that years ago, like I would have thought that you were insane if you told me that like I would have submission forms from some of the bands that I have tattooed on my body. You know what I mean? Like it's pretty wild. Some of the bigger bands, though, not all of them, obviously, are submitting. We do reach out, and that's just discussion between the crew. You know, it's hey, who, you know, this was, I like to call it the Terry year. Like Terry is a huge like skate punk dweeb. She loves the fucking Vandals. So I'm like, man, it'd be so cool if we could land the Vandals, and it happened. And I'm just like, yes, you know. So again, this sounds really cheesy, but like I just love to see my friends happy, you know, like when their favorite band's up on stage, I know what that means to me, and I like to watch other people thrive off of that. Like even Jess, seeing you during Catfight last year was cool as shit. Like you were stoked, and I love to see that, you know, because I get the same way. I'm in the crowd as much as I can be, and I try to soak up camp in all aspects, you know, and I think it's important for us to make sure we're grabbing bands that make us feel that way.
That's awesome. We also notice there's a lot of bands that have been there year after year after year. Working Class Stiff hasn't been announced.
They have not. Isn't that crazy?
I mean, maybe they'll be on there this year, maybe not.
I don't know. I don't know. I guess you guys are gonna have to wait and see.
How long are we waiting for your next the last four?
I actually don't know yet. I'm just, you know, this is one of those industry things where you kind of have to play ball. Some people can't announce things right away and stuff. And Matt, shut up. And I obviously I can't do anything about that, but it's looking like really soon. We're trying to get them out as quick as possible to everyone, so you guys have the full lineup and you know what's up, and we can be as transparent as possible with people. But I promise you, they're awesome.
I mean, we'll believe you on that one. You you also have a lot of bands that it seems have been there for 2, 3, 4 years, maybe 5 years. We don't know completely yet,
we like to call those our legacy bands and our house bands, basically. Like, and again, this goes back to also like our whole crew being DIY and volunteer. Like, you'll notice the band The What Nows are our stage managers and our stage hands and our hospitality leads and stuff. So, and you'll notice Working Class Stiffs are riding around with us, putting out fires, making sure look at Joe, making sure that nothing's going on. Same thing with like bands like Racist Kramer and the guys in Destroyer. Like, there are vendor leads and stuff. So it's, you know, it's funny to see kind of the response and the engagement on that, because it goes both ways. A lot of people are stoked to see these bands year after year, and some people are like, man, what the fuck, this band gets a slot every year. But these bands, again, they're helping us. They're in this year round, and it's just our way of saying thank you, other than just a thank you, you know? It's about to get loud in here, sorry.
That's perfectly
good.
I do want to chime in real quick. My co-pilot is here, so I got to hit the road. But on Monday at noon, 5051 is going to be taking place. People are going to be sitting in on the capitals across the country, protesting for the rights and everything that is going on in our country right now. So I want to take a second to announce that to everybody that has a chance to make it up, because this shit is very important. So I plan on being there. It's going to be going on 12 to 4. So yeah, hopefully you guys can make it too.
You want to catch up on everything you were going to
Oh
say,
shit,
Jen?
yeah, because I tried to ask a couple of questions and I'm like, everyone keeps talking over me. But
I
the way
thought
this
you
is
were.
going now, we're talking about the lineup, so I'm going to stick to that. There is quite the ska lineup going on here. I am going to see a bucket list band for me, Stuck Lucky.
Yay!
So excited about that.
I love
But
seeing them. They're amazing live.
also some favorites of mine, Against All Authority, Hans Gruber, and the Die Hards, who are a perfect fit for camp, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The best of the worst, always love to see them. You got the Abrupters, the Kilograms, Sammy K, the What Nows, of course the Chemical Imbalance. Um, my question that Eric already asked is, where the hell is Working Class
Yeah,
Tips? But he already asked that
I don't know, you
question.
guys. I have no idea.
That's because I thought you were gone, Jess.
I
I thought
know.
you had left.
I was like, why is he asking my questions?
They
But it's
are
all good now. I
busy this
understand.
year. They're going to be working, and they don't have time to perform, so you could just see them in the crowd this year. Sorry, guys.
Okay, well, that's okay. Whatever.
I've never seen them live yet, so that's a little bit of a bummer. Detroit bands, I see that Come Out Fighting is going to be there, so that's a Detroit band.
Yeah, Come Out Fighting rocks, you guys.
Yeah.
They were one of those bands too that, like, I love Submission Time too, because it's really crazy. We're literally listening to straight up hundreds of bands a day, which is kind of overwhelming. But like, when some of them stick out to us and they stick out to all of us, it's like the coolest thing ever. Because then we're like nerding out over bands that we found in the submissions, and I think it's again like that's how we found Car Bomb Parade. You know, they were in our submissions, and now they're lifers. You know, they're stuck with us. And I feel that way about a good chunk of the bands. And again, it's more than just being a really good band. But that is a really fun way for us to find new stuff. And it was important for us to pull a band from that area too, because like so many of you guys come loud and proud to camp, you know, so it's cool to be able to have it represented on the stages.
And we're bringing more Michigan people with us this year, so we're excited to see a hometown favorite on that stage. So
That's awesome.
Thank you.
We're stoked.
We covered this when I was desperately just clicking request to join over and over and over and over and over. Did we talk about where it's at, the date? Did we give the basic information? How can you get tickets?
Yeah, we can do the old rundown.
Thank you.
Yeah, Camp Punksylvania is June 20th through 22nd at West End Fairgrounds in Gilbert, Pennsylvania, and it is a 3-day punk rock summer camp extravaganza. And you can get tickets at camppunksylvania.com. We have literally just like less than a handful of VIP passes left, but plenty of GA camping options and all that good stuff are still up for grabs.
Nice. And tell people the layout. Hotels, camping, vendors, are they going to starve?
Oh,
Can they
somebody
get
asked if there was PA racist skinheads. Not at Camp Punksylvania. I can promise you that. We don't allow that shit. They will be asked to leave.
All right.
Yes.
Bring your own piss.
Piss Boy Summer, naturally. Yes. If I bring a guitar and didn't get booked. So actually that's a really good question. You could just play your guitar and people will watch you. There is a nighttime campfire, and that is a really good opportunity to do that. You'll also find a lot of the main stage artists kind of end up over there with their guitars, and it just becomes one of the most magical experiences at camp. So I definitely recommend doing that. People love that stuff, just as long as you're being respectful, you know?
So you can camp there?
Yeah, dude, it's Camp Punksylvania.
How do you do that and talk a little bit about that? So real quick, and you probably covered this, and when I was confused and trying to get on, but so if I remember correctly, you started year one was because Camp Anarchy didn't happen, correct? I
Yes.
feel like I remember it. So I was in a big chat with I forget what it was called, but I got the T-shirt still from
Punks Pitch and Tents.
thank you. Yes, yes,
That's literally
and
where all of us met. We
yep.
met all in that group, which is crazy because then we met up in person, and that's where a lot of like Terry and I met there. And that is where like this friendship started and where we met a bunch of, people that are attending the festival and even on our team now. So that was like the meeting point, you know.
And you were a response to not a response, but Camp Punk happening was a response to the fact that Camp Anarchy wasn't happening, and you were like, "Fuck that! Let's get together and still hang out and do stuff."
Yeah,
Right?
it was just supposed to be kind of like a glorified like camping in somebody's backyard with some hot dogs and some acoustic guitars, and it just kind of snowballed overnight. We were talking about it online as three crazy women do, and people were interested. They were stoked on it. So, at the time there were three of us, and we started kind of putting things together for the first camp. And COVID came and hit and shut everything right down. We lost that venue. We lost some people that were part of our team, and we were like, okay, so we've got a year to figure out if we want to do this, how we want to handle this. And Terry and I made the choice to keep going, and we found four quarters, and here we are 5 years later.
But is this what you do now full time? You went from, hey, let's get together and hear some bands to a media company. Is this
It
your thing now? Is this what you do?
is, yeah. I used to actually run a restaurant full time, and then I shut that down. And because I mean, I've always that was never like a passion really for me. I do love to cook and stuff, but it just wasn't my thing. So, I started getting into more of like the behind the scenes side of the industry, working with like ticketing companies and things like that. I started doing like Comic-Con and stuff, working the backside of that, and I was like, this is really cool. And I got an opportunity to work with a local media company, and I do this full time now. And I get to work on camp every day as my job. I get to work on Riot Squad shows as my job, and it has turned into really my dream. Like who doesn't want that? It has its downsides for sure, but overall, it still feels nice to be able to kind of be my own boss, but to be able to give people things that they really, really look forward to, versus just like a pizza.
And
So one,
you had mentioned towards the beginning of this that you thought as a woman in the industry that you had more struggles and problems. Was it was it that you're a woman or that you were new or both? I know, and I would like to say from our podcast standpoint, from talking to other women who are even in ska bands, we find that for lack of better terms, sometimes they are off to the side instead of front and center. And it's something I think we're passionate about as a podcast, is
For sure.
ensuring that people are equal, and we are promoting also women bands and so forth and so on. So, so is it a struggle? Like,
Yeah,
is that
and
is that a thing?
your question, it was a struggle on both fronts. Yes, to being a woman, and yes, to being brand new at this. So it was kind of like at the beginning, like I said, Terry and I, we almost pulled the plug on things during COVID. Like our third partner at the time, she decided to open a record label, which is awesome. So Terry and I were like, all right, are we still, what do we want to do? But ultimately, like, again, we kept going, and it was like every couple of weeks it was like, shit, these odds are like against us all the time. Like nobody's answering us. Like you could very clearly tell, like, for example, we called to get a quote on golf cart rentals. I called, and then I had a friend call who was a man, and his quote was like $300 less than mine, and I was just like, what
Really?
the fuck is happening? Like, so, and I know that sounds crazy, but like those are real things that we have dealt with, and we still do deal with on some level. I've gotten a lot better at, we call Terry the Canadian hammer because she doesn't give a fuck, and I've gotten a lot better at kind of taking a little bit of that and being a little more assertive, because Terry's more production oriented and deals with like the artist relations side of things, but like all pre-camp stuff, that is a lot of that is me, and I had to kind of get good at telling people, hey, no, this isn't okay. I know how this should be. I know how this works, and I'm not gonna be okay with this. And sometimes it works in my favor, and sometimes it doesn't. But I think just holding your ground is important, and it's gotten us pretty far. I mean, look at how far we've come. I do think that we are still facing a lot of those struggles, but this industry, as most are super male dominated. But I think we are making a name for ourselves, even if it takes forever. So it's a humbling thing, and it's also a little bit frustrating. But
For being I mean, even when you look at ska and punk, you would think the people being equal and the diversity is respected. So I guess it's hard, and it's also eye-opening to know that those struggles still exist in this scene too. Like, we would like to be like, they don't exist here, and so forth and so on, but obviously they do.
Absolutely. And like, again, I love going to shows. I love going to festivals. And as a woman, and Jessie, I'm sure you can relate to this, we see all of these awesome announcements happening, and then you're like, oh, fuck yeah. And then you look at the flyer and you're like, where's the women? Like, where's any representation of anything other than these straight white dudes on these lineups? And like, I know that those bands sell, and that's fucking cool. Sure. But you know what else sells? Diversity. So like, I think we could showcase that, and I think it's absolute bullshit, and there's no excuse for promoters and these media companies not to be showcasing these bands. Like, the only reason is money at that point, and that doesn't feel nice to me. So if camp is a small festival, which it is, last year we had, I think it was like 1,200 attendees, which that's great for us. That's so cool, but if it stays small, I'm okay with that for those reasons. Like, I prefer to be able to showcase these bands than to like cash in on quick ticket sales with all these like straight white dudes on our stage. Like, what does that do for a female run company? Absolutely nothing. And I think it's counterproductive.
You've got some really great female bands playing this year. Do you want to talk about any of them?
I would love to talk about all of them.
There's one that I missed last year, Soji. We were doing an interview at the time, so I'm really excited to see them because I've heard.
Dude, Soji rocks.
Yeah.
Soji rocks. And, again, too, like, these are bands that they're pretty regional. Soji, I believe, is from right in Philly. So they're pretty close to camp. But again, like, if we can give Soji a platform to shout fuck landlords and fuck 12, like, we are going to do that. And it's the coolest shit to me ever to see them up there. And again, that was another reason we brought them back. Like, it feels empowering to me as a woman, and I love looking out in the crowd and seeing, younger Soji kills. Soji does kill. But I love looking out in the crowd and seeing the response from these younger women, and also these younger, like, even Ox. Like, I love when, kids are captivated by these artists and stuff. Like, you should be looking at these Black females and being like, holy shit, like, listen to her, or look at her play those drums. Like, there should be no reason why we're not showcasing these things year after year. And like, to me, that's what makes punk, right? Like, we're in this because we're like the outcasts, right? Like, we want to be our own people. We want to do our own thing. So there's no reason that we should all be straight white dudes.
Exactly.
And we're not going to have that at Camp Punksylvania ever. So it's nice to look at our lineup and have tons and tons of variety and diversity in there, from genre to just demographics, and it makes me happy in a weird time, because like, I wake up every morning and I look at the news and I'm like, where do we go? So if we can look at music and all of the different ways that it comes together, like, it gives me just a little hope for the rest of the world,
So we go to Camp Punksylvania. That's where we go.
You go to Camp Punksylvania.
If you haven't been there, this is your year to go there and find your people. I found my people there. What, second year of camp, so it's been like 3 years, I guess.
Yeah.
And I also think that that there is a Buffalo Ska Fest coming up that
Yes.
maybe you might have your hand into.
There
And
is. The lineup is actually coming out. What's today? The 15th? It comes out on the 20th.
yeah,
You're gonna drop the whole thing at once?
The whole damn thing. Yep.
oh shit.
Last year, the pre-party, we talked earlier about Mohawk closing down. So the pre-party was at Mohawk. What is the plan for this year? Is it all going to be at Ironworks, or
It
is that
because it's not a pre-party anymore because I have no self-control. It's like a full-blown day one of stuff.
Yes,
Nice.
I love it.
It's crazy too. If Joe is still in here, like I know he's gonna yell at me, but I joke around. I'm like, what if we just do like a pre-party? Everybody's like, Laura, no, stop, because we were dead last year. It was like the week right after camp. And it's I tend to just like have my head in the fucking clouds all the time, and I'm like, yeah, but what if?
Yeah, that was
So
rough as an attendee, so I can only imagine what it was like on you.
I made it 2 days this year, and I mean, we just again too. It was one of those things where the lineup kind of started coming to us, and there were so many cool opportunities that it was like stupid for us to look at some of them and be like, let's pass on this just to keep it one day or like a mild day one. And yeah, here we are, 2 huge days of Ska Fest. But I'm stoked. That was another one. It started off as a fucking joke. Like we had just a hold placed at Mohawk trying to fill it, in booking world, because that's what you do. And it ended up like all these ska bands ended up being available, and then even more ska bands were like, can we play? And then we were like, well, what if we just call Mephistopheles? And then it sold out. So we were like, oh shit. And year 2 sold out again last year when we doubled. We moved over to Ironworks. Joe said he's not amused.
I guess
I told you.
Playing that one either, are they?
You. No, they're totally not playing Buffalo Ska Fest where they're from. They're not playing that. No, I will leak some of that lineup though. Like, I'll leak the repeats, because why not? So you can see obviously Working Class Stiffs. You'll be able to see the What Nows. Turkey Blaster Omega from Rochester is joining us again. The Chemical Imbalance, Do It With Malice, the Abrupters. Yeah, so all of your big Western New York bands are back, and then some also really good ones, and some really, really fun headliner bands. Yeah, it's gonna be a good one.
I would love for you to clarify the all age thing, because last year I saw the all age 18 plus after 9, and I thought I couldn't bring Ox because I was like, oh, it's 18 plus after 9. But
yeah, so this year I think we're getting there. Last year was our first year at Ironworks, and I think they were like, how are we gonna? What's this crowd like? Because that's the rap that we get everywhere. Like, oh, it's a punk. Holy shit, So last year it was a little bit different, but this year it is all ages again up until I believe 9 o'clock. So he wouldn't be able to come in after then.
Okay.
But there is.
But if you're in already, do they have to leave? Is the question.
I'm gonna say no, because last year nobody was being removed.
Right.
So I would say, and this is me as the promoter of this festival, so we'll deal with this if it ends up being an issue. But the way we did it last year was we did not kick any of the kids out at 9 p.m. that were in there. Just nobody entering the venue after 9 under the age of 18 was allowed in. So should be good to go. And we're going to change the layout around there a little bit just to make things a little smoother. It was packed, and
it was.
As awesome as that is, it's a little overwhelming when it's 102 degrees outside. So I'm excited
I may
make
even want to keep it an adult only like weekend, but I saw other people asking, so I thought I would address it.
Yeah, I mean, I love having the kids there. I think it's what we do at Riot Squad shows. So eventually my goal is to be able to have that shit be all ages, all day long, no questions asked. Ironworks has been great to us though. They kind of took us right in, and that's really become home for Buffalo Ska Fest too. It feels really good there. The staff there has been great. They work really great with us. It's female run. They've got a female production manager, bar manager. So it just, it feels really good to us.
I thought it was a really cool venue. I loved how the vendors were set up along. It seemed like an alley kind of.
Yeah.
But you could just go out there and hang out, and the garage doors were open, nice fresh air. It was a great venue.
Yeah, it's awesome. And again, it felt really cool to, that was year 2 we bit off. I was like, shit, are we biting off more than we can chew here? Like literally doubling this venue. What if we don't sell it out? We're going to lose our ass. And we sold it out during pre-sales last year. So I'm like, oh, this is more than just like a festival for people. Like, it almost, as cheesy as this sounds, it feels like a movement in Buffalo, you know? People come out hard for that, and it's really fucking awesome. And it feels cool to be able to throw like our local bands on as direct support for these bands, because they deserve it. You know, that's what Buffalo Ska Fest is. And I'm all about putting those smaller bands as in your face as absolute possible, you know, because I think they deserve it just as much, if not more.
Absolutely.
And I would say we agree. I mean, part of our mission is to help the smaller bands in their local scenes to really to get an audience and get people showing up and enjoying. Because I mean, every bigger band anyone's ever heard was a smaller band at one point in time.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, that's one of like our favorite things to do at camp. We have this scavenger hunt, which I'm sure you're probably familiar with. You know, you get a little like survival guide, and in there it's loaded with like 100 different tasks. And if you read them, a lot of them are really geared toward, you know, hey, go in the mosh pit for this band, or go grab a set list for this band. And we're really just trying to get these bands in your face and make sure that, you know, you are listening to them, you're seeing them. And I think that again too is a little bit more for the bands than just coming to play a festival. You know, when you have the people actively trying to get people over to your set and stuff like that, it feels more like a family.
Absolutely.
And it's cool to see them live. Like, it's been really cool year after year to see some of the bands. Like, you know, we hosted Froggy year one. They were they were like in high school still, and then to see them like a year later being sponsored by 7-Eleven and like in commercials and stuff, in like Kevin Smith movies. That stuff is really, really cool.
Right.
You know. Or like even Susie Moon played our first year, and then she just like exploded. It's really awesome to look at that and be like, hey, we hosted these bands when we were nobodies, you know, and they were still trying to kind of figure stuff out. So to see them thriving and us kind of thriving, it feels really awesome.
So for those who've never heard of camp, what do people need to know besides get a ticket and be there? What do you need to know about camp?
Oh man, that's a loaded question, I feel. I think you need to know that it's more than just a music festival. And you know, I don't think a lot of other festivals can say that. There's probably a handful of those destination fests. And in my opinion, I feel like camp is one of those destination fests. And not just because it's mine, but I get a feeling there that I don't feel a lot of other places. The only other thing that's really come close to it is This Is Not Croydon Fest. And it's big shout out to the homies. Jeremy, get well soon. But yeah, it's one of those things. Again, it's more than just a festival. You go for the community. You go to be with your friends. You go to do these silly little things. You go to hang out and camp in the woods. And, you know, maybe you found a therapist. You know, maybe you find certain things along the way. Like year two, we had somebody come up to us. We were just kind of making rounds, and they were in tears. And I'm like, oh my God, what do we do? Like, this person's crying. What do we do? And they came up to me and they were like, I just want to let you know I've had the most spiritual experience here. And I've been healing all weekend, and it just feels really good to feel safe and at home, and like I don't have to worry about things. And that was kind of like this weird domino effect. We started hearing things like that more and more, and it was like, this is more than that to other people too. So it's comforting to know that like other people are feeling that feeling, but it's also a really hard thing to try and relay to the public, you know, like, come because this is a cult. People are like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, that's what that means. And it's really just one of those things. You have to be there to experience it. Like, there's so much magic that happens at camp. You know, you don't have to leave when the last band goes off. You can go over to the campfire, and you can stay up till the sun comes up with Sam King from Get Dead, and you can steal my golf cart with him. Actually, not this year. I'm taking the keys out. But you know, like, what other festival can you kind of be up close and personal like that with those artists? It doesn't really happen a lot, and I think that makes camp really special. Is everybody you know, from the headliners on our lineup to the people coming for the first year are sitting in the dirt around a fire with a bottle of Jack Daniels and a guitar talking. And it feels nice to know that you're seen and that you're equals with other people. And that is what I like. I so badly wish I could shout from the rooftops to people and let them know, like, you should come to this because it's more than just your favorite band on stage.
And in my experience, last year is my first year attending, and that is what I loved about it. As Jess is my witness, by the time the weekend was over, I was like, oh man, I missed this band and this band and this band. But I got to hang out with so many different people at the same time, and I got to experience so many different things. It was definitely a whole experience. So, so if you haven't gone, really go this year, and I really feel like it's a festival like no other. It's definitely a festival where you will get some great music, but you'll make some friends, and you'll end up at a campsite having a beer with people you don't know, and now you have friends, and meet some cool musicians, and eat some great food. So I highly suggest, if you're listening to this, buy the ticket and get there this year. You will not be disappointed.
It's a like I said, it's the most fun adult all ages summer camp you'll ever go to.
Okay.
You know, your camp counts crazy, everybody in attendance is crazy, but it is a vibe really like no other. You know, we were walking around last year after the festival, just kind of like feeling out the groundskeepers and seeing what they thought about us, because we're like, shit, are we going to be able to come back here next year? And they were like, we've been hosting events for 100 years, and you're like the cleanest, most respectful group of people that we've ever had. And feels really cool to know that a bunch of punks nestled in Pennsylvania for the weekend were the cleanest and most respectful group that they've ever seen, you know? So I like, it feels cool to be able to keep bringing that to people. And I love, you know, like yourself, like watching people be like, oh my God, this is real. Like this is a whole, this is more than just this. It's my favorite part about the festival is just watching people's reaction to it, you know?
So
Justin,
somebody said going to camp year one was the best decision they ever made, and I honestly agree that I didn't go camp year one. I went camp year two, but again, one of the best decisions I'd made. It turned out to be to start a lot of friendships and just be a place that I knew I wanted to go back every single year.
And that's all we want. Like, we want people to feel the way that we felt about Anarchy Camp. We want you to be excited to come back every year, you know? Or like, you know, Terry, she's on Salty Dog Cruise right now. Like, and I know for a lot of people in our community, like, we live experiences. There's so many of us that like this keeps us waking up every day, you know, like this scene, this music, these people are why we're like breathing every day. And I know that that's hard, and to know that like you have a safe space to look forward to every, you know, if it's annually, if you can make it out to a few other shows, great. But like, if you know that you have this place where you can go and like forget about the whole world except the things that you absolutely love for a little while, like that's cool. And it feels cool that like we get to do that every year.
Absolutely. I think that's a great way to end this. Like, how else can you say it? Show up, you're going to have a great time, you're going to want to come back.
You're going to want to join the cult. You don't have to support, but it is recommended.
You might get a tattoo.
You should get a tattoo. We'll have back. The tattoo bus is coming back this year. It's going to be awesome.
Awesome. All right. Well, Laura, thank you for coming on with us, and thank you for sharing so much with us. And everybody have a good night. Good night.
Yes. Thank you very much.
We will see you
soon.